Today's episode is brought to you by 9centprinting.com. With over 100 five-star reviews, 9centprinting.com is ready to meet all your printing needs. Are you a church plant or small church with no copy machine? No problem. 9cent Printing has you covered. If you need bulletins, flyers, books, cards, offering envelopes, posters, they do it all. I know the Christian owners of this business personally, and I'm not just a fan, I'm also a customer. Fast, nationwide shipping, affordable, professional, wow printing at wow prices. Check them out at 9centprinting.com. Welcome to the Small Town Pastor Podcast. This podcast is the ministry of Small Town Network. We exist to make disciples, train pastors, and plant churches in smaller communities. We are joined today, with who, what am I doing? We're starting over. Welcome to Small Town Pastor Podcast. This podcast is a ministry of Small Town Network. We exist to make disciples, train pastors, and plant churches in smaller communities. My name is Eric Nielsen, and I'm joined today with our previous guests, Hunter Nikolai, my youth pastor, standing in for Tony Colomb, faithful co-host, and then Matt Phipps. Matt, good to have you back. So we left off kind of on your journey to a church in Fruitland, Idaho. And since then, you had how many years were you in Fruitland?
10 years.
And how long have you been in Grants Pass, Oregon?
About to finish about to be 3.
Wow.
August 1st will be 3.
Time flies by, man. So
yeah,
you're one of the few people that have actually moved from Idaho to Oregon.
yeah.
Most of the people are going the opposite direction, but good for you. I'm one of the opposites. So we just had a net zero population exchange. So you've served mostly in these smaller communities and stuff. And that's where a lot of our listeners, are from, is these smaller communities that tend to also be smaller churches. What have you noticed, in your experience, are some of let's start with the joys of working in smaller and rural communities. What are some of the things that people, Hunter's a young guy that is a youth guy that wants to be a lead pastor someday, a church planner. There's people that are attracted to city, people that are attracted to rural. What are some of the upsides of being in the smaller communities in your mind?
In mine, it really is that community aspect is, big cities always try to imply they have like community aspects to them, but they're really hard to find. Small communities or small town, places like that. It's so easy to get out in the community and just be a part of it. And for as far as the people are just kind of genuine, a lot more down to earth. That's for sure. They more in my time, they talk, it's like, oh, nobody, the statistics right now will say, nobody really wants you to come to their home. Except for in everywhere I've lived, they love when you come to their house.
Oh, you mean like when you show up as a pastor and come to them and go visiting and stuff like that?
Yeah, when I pick up my phone and here and I call somebody from our community, from our church here, and I'm like, hey, can I come by and just pay you a visit? They're like, oh, we'd love that. And and that was the same in Fruitland too. Just getting invaded here.
That's okay. Hey, buddy.
That's my youngest. That's Gabriel.
So, yeah, get ready to go, man.
Yep. Go, buddy. All right.
He's got the World Cup soccer ball going on.
Yeah. It's hopefully all about football, not actual football.
So what I kind of hear you saying is in a city or larger communities, community is experienced kind of in micro community. There's communities within the larger community, but it's hard to have a sense for the whole community or to feel connected to the whole community. It's like you find your community inside of the community. Whereas in a smaller town, would that be accurate to say you kind of get a sense for the town and the people? And
yeah. One of the fun things in Fruitland, Fruitland, for instance, has one high school. Fruitland High School, Payette High School, New Plymouth High School, Ontario High School, Nissa High School. So and the camaraderie in the school or the rivalries between two towns they're a freaking hoot. It's just like I've coached football for coming on 8 years. And not I never was able to coach in Fruitland, but I coached in Ontario, Oregon, there at Ontario High School, Ontario Middle School, and in a spring football program that they do over there too. And getting immersed in community, became a police chaplain, like almost accidentally became a police chaplain, which is a funny story. Because this one guy I knew, because when I first started at Valley Christian Church, I was part-time associate pastor, and then I was part-time school janitor at a middle school or a elementary school
You're
over
wearing
there.
all the hats, dude.
Yeah, just did all the stuff. And this guy who's the husband of a teacher who was always throwing shade at our chief of police in Fruitland. And I was like, so much shade that I would have thought like there was like he would have been like the sheriff from Rambo. I know Hunter, you might not know that reference, but no, it's like maybe you do.
A little before my time.
A little, still a great movie. You got to check it out. But uh, and so I was talking to a Nazarene pastor from Ontario, and he's like, "Well, have you ever met him, the chief?" And I was like, "No." I was like, "Well, he goes to my church. You should go meet him." And so I go over, I make an appointment, I go over, I meet him, and then I become a chaplain. Like it's like I'm like, maybe I'm just gullible. I get talked into stuff like Boise Bible College or becoming a chaplain. But
Yeah, I have some yard work that needs to be done.
Yeah.
so yeah, I'm
What are you
all
doing
about
tomorrow? Yeah.
yeah.
So do you feel like it'd be accurate to say like I live right now in a town of, 55,000,
Mhm.
and if I walked in and be like, I want to be a police chaplain, they'd probably be like, we already have them. There's opportunities in smaller communities maybe for you to fill roles and to connect in ways that aren't readily available, like in bigger contexts. You can insert yourself into community at different levels that maybe that opportunity doesn't exist in some of the bigger communities people work in.
Yeah, I think in some ways that's true. But on the other side of it, like if we flash forward into when we moved here, my neighbor from the rental, we lived in this little subdivision, and my neighbor around the corner, his wife stopped by and was talking to my wife because she saw we had kids, and it was kind of one of those small town kind of things, like, oh, you have kids, we have kids, let's be friends. And she's like, through that normal conversation of what do you do, my wife was like, oh, my husband's a pastor, and she's like, oh, my husband's a chaplain, and uh runs the organization down here. It's called Southern Oregon Public Safety Chaplains. And so we cover 5 counties, with police and fire, first responder chaplaincy, yeah, stuff like, so, and my wife's like, oh, my husband did that for 8 years in Idaho. And then boom, now Fred, his name, it's like, you got to be a chaplain. And so all of a sudden I found myself being a chaplain again. Same with football, because of my time doing football in Ontario. When I dropped off my son Elijah for his freshman year of football up at Hidden Valley, um, I talked to the head coach, and I was like, well, if you guys need any help, I have, a couple of years of experience with especially defensive line. And it's like, yeah, you want to start next week, basically. And I'm like, yeah, sure. My wife she was upset. She's like, I thought we were going to have some time where we could, discover Grants Pass together, and here you're off coaching football again. I'm like, I don't know I don't know what to say.
Right.
Sorry, I apologize.
Now, do you feel
Um,
like this is like a strategy for you though, like to go and plug yourself into the community, and
well, I don't feel like
or
it's
do
an
you?
actual
But
strategy. I don't have, when I was leaving Fruitland, one of the funny things, and it was kind of just, and I know there's a lot to unpack from Fruitland, both positive and negative. But one of the big negatives in my leaving, the elders there just kept like, where's the list of everything that you were doing? Blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, hey, there's no list. I said, in so many ways, it's just me. It's who I am. I don't have a careful architectural plan of how my strategy to get into the community was. I'm just a freaking redneck who got out there, and it's like, I like football. I met a guy who was on staff at Ontario High School when I was teaching. I taught for a couple of years as at a private school in Ontario. I taught science, and his son played for Ontario High School and heard I wanted to play or coach football. He's like, "Well, come out and help me coach this," and that turned into me coaching at the high school, and then that turned me coaching back down at the middle school the year after COVID. And I'm like, it just happened. The chaplaincy stuff just happened. It was just, if there was a strategy for anything, it was just being willing to whatever God put in front of me.
Hmm.
And so if that meant like here being a chaplain, here, sure. Again, football, yeah, sure. Um, Looking for unique opportunities to impact community by doing something different. Uh, we were again, so some of the things we did at Fruitland that got us involved with the community is uh, vacation Bible school. Everybody else was doing vacation Bible school during the day, like the earlier part of the day. For some reason, I said, "Hey, but what if we just did it at night?"
Hmm.
And everybody was doing theirs in June. So I'm like, what if we did ours in July? What would happen? And I got the right people, a gal named Stephanie, um, who I had known as a kid because my dad was at Payette, and Fruitland and Payette are right next to each other. And she became like this amazing VBS director and children's director in our church. And man, we had, I think, one year in Fruitland, Idaho, again, a city of like at that time, 6,000 people or so. We were having VBSs where we were having numbers up to 70 and 80 kids
Oh,
on one
Yes.
night
In a small town.
in a small town.
Yeah.
Just by looking for a unique way to do something that was different and doing things in a genuine way. I recently read a book by, I think his name's Brandon Ginden.
Okay.
He used to be up at Real Life, or I
Okay.
think,
Just
well, he's still like Real Life, but down in Texas
the
now or
disciple
whatever.
making culture one.
Intentional. Yeah, I think it's called Intentional. But and when I was reading it, I'm like, oh, this is just how I've always saw ministry. It's like just be intentional with whatever you're doing. Um, Again, we did I saw people doing harvest festivals when we were in Fruitland, and we had a 10-acre cornfield. So what did I do? I was like, let's have a corn maze. And everybody's like,
yeah.
how do we even do a corn maze? I'm like, I don't know. I
We'll
was like,
figure it out.
we'll figure it out. And so one of the farmers, the farmer who maintained that field for us was one of our elders. And so we went out and we had these really, yeah, they weren't overly complex mazes. They were just like one said love, one said hope the next year. And we became the church that had a corn maze that you could come and do for free.
So
That's
what
awesome.
I'm kind of hearing though is like by the product of you kind of being pastor at large and kind of really being part of the community, you kind of stumble upon opportunities and recognize opportunities, potential for opportunities. But because as the byproduct of you actually being out in the community,
Yeah.
if we're being honest, a lot of pastors, and probably some listening to this are probably sitting in their office right now, but a lot of pastors, it's really easy just to hang out in your office and like work on sermons and stuff like that. And when the phone rings, answer it, and if someone needs you, go. But you've kind of made it seems like a career so far out of like being out and being involved in the community and chaplaincy and sports and even odd jobs, side jobs, stuff like that, being out in the community, getting to know folks. And is that what you say has kind of become like the way you do what you do?
Yeah. Yeah. I'd say, um, for instance, here in Fruitland, I don't, on Tuesdays, I'm out of the office like pretty much the entire time. On Tuesday, I go downtown to this little coffee shop, and I go down there to meet with a buddy of mine who's on staff at another church here, and we have coffee every Tuesday. But I just go down there. I bring my laptop and my backpack, and if I'm if I'm finishing a sermon, if I'm putting together my sermon slides for the AV team, I finish up whatever I need to do. I make phone calls from down there. I end up talking with people. My barber, I just saw him yesterday. He and I actually went to high school together. And
Hmm.
so I get to go in and say hi to those guys. I ended up in there after getting my haircut yesterday because they all know I'm a pastor. Like we get into like discussions on Bible stuff like all the time. It's
Hmm.
crazy. And everybody knows I'm a pastor. And here at Grants Pass is a much larger place than Fruitland, right? But it's about almost three, almost you could say almost four times the size probably of Fruitland, Idaho. And yet I'm just as well known, maybe not in scale like I was in Fruitland, right? Like Fruitland it's a lot easier. I go into the restaurants, the pizzeria there, they have an Idaho pizza there, and restaurants, the coffee shops, they all know exactly who I was. And some places like one of the coffee shops there in Fruitland, I never even had to order. They see me come in, they boom, make my order. Here you go. Hey, Pastor Matt, nice to see you. And we bring coffee into the police station. My wife would get heavily involved. You guys know the little case that happened where the little boy Michael got kidnapped down there a couple years ago, and we were heavily involved in trying to search and find him. And there was a lot of that kind of stuff. Just our community. We were probably, I don't know if I'd say the most active church in Fruitland, but maybe second most, because there was what do you call it? Free Methodist Church or something like that there. And they were really heavily involved too. They and us were probably the largest churches in Fruitland. Not by, I mean, we're running 150 people a Sunday, right before I moved here. And that I think all had to do with just being genuine and being in the community. And like you said, just not a real strategy for it, just other than looking for opportunity and being willing to say yes.
Yeah. I'm wondering, Matt, because we talked a little bit last episode about how you grew up in a pastor's household. I'm wondering if there's anything that you kind of have took from your dad into your ministry now that has been pretty advantageous to what you do.
Oh yeah, my dad's the same way. I don't think the mental process of it wasn't like, that's what my dad does, that's what I'm gonna
Yeah.
do.
Yeah.
But maybe it's just somewhat genetic, I guess. But
It's just
my dad was the first church in Forest Grove to be on the Chamber of Commerce. They were one of the first churches to help do with the school lunch program. He coached for the local Christian school. I think he coached junior high girls basketball or something like that. But my dad coached my brother in basketball. He too was coached me in Pee Wee football in Payette, Idaho, and T-ball and stuff like that. So looking for, one of the first things I remember ever doing that would have been not for church people is I was coached my son's T-ball team, and right when we first moved there to Fruitland, and there's this other family that was on the team, and they were really good people, big into baseball, and his dad was one of the optometrists in the area, and then he passed away. And my wife was like, we should go to the funeral. And I'm like, yeah, we should. I was Seth's coach. I mean, she could be at the funeral. That's pretty easy. So we go to the funeral, and all of a sudden, that family started coming to our church.
Oh.
And all we did, I mean, the funeral was packed. His dad was massively known, like all over, like huge. They rented out the community center to do the funeral, and we just walked up and said, "Hey, we're sorry for your loss. We're praying for you guys." And they were a Seventh-day Adventist family, but he was Seventh-day Adventist. She was a non-instrumental Church of Christ. Match made in heaven, right there. So, and and they just started coming to Valley, and and now their son's playing for College of Idaho in Caldwell there, and for playing baseball and stuff, and we're still connected to him somewhat to this day. And but it's just like it's really just little stuff. I think it's just, I don't know, I just think that's what Jesus would have done. Jesus seemed to be involved everywhere he went
in people's lives. Yeah.
Yeah, and
He went to the wedding. Did he actually know the people at the wedding in Cana of Galilee? I don't know, maybe.
we don't know.
Could have been a wedding.
Sure made them good wine though.
Yeah,
So
that's right.
he
Well, hey,
probably got invited back to the next wedding, like, hey,
in
Just keep that guy around.
the remaining few minutes we have, let's talk about some of the challenges in being a smaller town. There's obviously, pros and cons to everything. So as you think about being in a smaller community, what are some of the unique, I'm not looking for like bad things per se, but just some of the challenges that, of being in a smaller community.
well, I think one is kind of the glaring obvious one is like being really careful with how you walk,
Mm.
being patient and not too hasty with, because you're going to get hurt. People, like I told you about my son's recent experience and that pressure point, right? Like that, you're going to run into people who don't like you, don't trust you, don't, whatever. Don't get caught up into, trying to keep up with the Joneses in the church world. Um, Man, I think that's really important. When you're pastoring a small church, like Valley was a small church, it was like 50 some odd people when I first showed up. And it's really easy to start comparing yourself to the Calvary Chapel across the river, right? Or the Nazarene Church, or trying like we're not as well as doing as good. And the minute you start thinking that way, you're going to start behaving that way, and then it's going to be you're going to poison the well pretty quick. And then so uh, keeping your head on straight, focus on the people, not your leadership. Sometimes, like Eric, I mean, you and I met. You were part of the process of me moving to Oregon, so it's your fault.
I drove you away. That's for
You
sure.
did. You drove me away.
Then
You
you
told me I
prayed.
wasn't. You told me I wasn't ready to be, or I wasn't right to be a church planner. And so I'm like, well, fine.
It wasn't personal. It wasn't personal.
I know it wasn't personal. I know it wasn't. I never took it personally. I'm just being funny. But it really just was. Uh, I don't know as far as like negatives without getting to like some of the things that were really hard with my, obviously the eldership that I had there at Valley didn't really help anything. Um, they kind of constantly fought everything I was trying to do.
Well,
I
if you'd had a list of everything, that would have been helpful.
Yeah, really. Well, I didn't know how to necessarily go into that, but it's like, oh, if I had a list, yeah, I got you. So,
Yeah.
but I would say just like, I don't know. I guess I don't have a
I
great
mean,
answer.
like some of the things I can think of, like, is like, like if someone, leaves our church, which happens in every church, like I don't necessarily see them in Twin Falls. I might run into them, I might not. It's big enough that, and there's enough places and people that I'm not going to see them necessarily. But if you're in a town that's smaller, and you have someone depart and they're disgruntled, you're probably going to run into them again.
Oh yeah.
That's some of the challenges. Like you said, you're kind of visible. So, I think that's one of the things that I perceive when I talk to, we've had a lot of, smaller town pastors in our podcast talk about, everywhere you go, like you run into somebody. One of my favorites was Chris Getz was my first youth pastor, and he's now the senior pastor at First Christian Church in Garnett, Kansas. And I went and visited him in his church. We kind of went around like for the weekend, and everywhere we went, that guy ran into somebody. And usually not one, but like multiple. So like we went to go to the grocery store to pick up some stuff for dinner. It was like three or four like stop and have a conversation.
Yeah.
And you can understand in a way how that would be like cool. Like, wow, there's always people, but sometimes you just want to go to the store and go home, and then
Yeah.
not we go into a restaurant and it's like he had to literally go to like three tables and go shake hands and kind of hug and talk to people and stuff like that before he could go sit down with his family to have dinner.
Yeah, and I did see that a lot. It would be one of those if we went to Walmart in Ontario, which we don't really do that a whole lot, but
You guys just went to Ontario to buy weed. Don't lie about
no, I just went to not pay sales
it.
tax. That's all.
Wait, I got to say something now that I was being a smart aleck. For everybody that doesn't know, weed is legal in Oregon, but not legal in Idaho. And so people drive across the border from Fruitland and all of those places to Oregon to the first town, which is Ontario, to buy
Yeah.
their marijuana. So
And then they wonder why ISP sets a dragnet out on
Yeah,
80.
right. Yeah. I know state police is raking it in right there.
One of my first ride-alongs I did with Fruitland PD, I was riding with a guy and I was like, "You ever stop anybody coming from Ontario back into Idaho?" And he's like, "Yeah, one time I pulled these guys over and it reeked and they were talking. I was like, well, what are you guys doing?" They're like, "Oh, we're just coming across to do, something." He's like, "Ah, Canada almost made it." Which is a reference to a movie called Super Troopers.
I know the movie. Yeah.
So, but yeah, so to your point, we go to Albertsons. Fruitland itself doesn't have a grocery store, which is fine because Payette has an Albertsons, Ontario's got Albertsons and Walmart and all sorts of stuff. So, but anytime I go to any grocery store, my wife was like, "Well, I'll see you in about an hour." Going to
Yeah.
run for one thing, and she's like, "Yeah, you're gonna
In about an
notice."
hour.
She might call me like, later on my phone. She's like, "Well, who'd you run into?" And I'm like, "Oh, I ran into this person and this person and this person." And
Yeah, yeah.
yeah, and that is a pressure point of like trying to guard your time. I guess that's one I would say for small town pastors, probably it becomes far more difficult to guard your time. Even here in Grants Pass, like, gosh, I just went, there's an Albertsons like a couple miles down the roads from us. And I went in there the other day and I ran into like 5 people that I know. And I said hi and run down there to the deli or whatever and buy lunch sometimes. And I run into people that I know there. Um and like you said, it's cool sometimes. It's pretty neat to be recognized by a lot of people. And I'm recognized by people that I've done calls for as a chaplain. I run into people. I was at a law enforcement memorial thing a couple of years ago, and I ran into a lady. I did a call for her dad who died, and she recognized me, and I wasn't in uniform or anything. So I'm running. I constantly run into not just church people, but I'm running into the people in the community that I
Yeah.
impacting. And that's a kind of a double-edged thing, right? It's like it's really cool, it's really neat. At the same time, when you're trying to get somewhere and go do something, it's hard. When I was in Idaho, I would get invited to go to the Weekend to Remember marriage conference thing,
Oh
which they
yeah,
had in
sure.
Boise, and I got to the point where I won't even go to the we don't go to the marriage conference at Grove here in Oregon, and it really has nothing to do with. I think those are amazing things. For me, if I'm going to do something with my wife, I want to go somewhere where nobody knows us.
Otherwise, yeah,
Otherwise, you're a pastor again.
yeah, that's right. You're back in the pastor mode. Well, if I met, I had a chance to meet. Was it your elders you were with at that conference we saw each other at in Oregon, right?
One of my elders was there, Jeff, and then the
Okay.
other guys were my son, Elijah,
Oh,
uh,
that's right. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Daniel Baker, who's I know has been on this podcast. His
Sure,
brother
sure.
Matt was there, and so those are and then Tom McCormick, who's
Oh,
he's right
right.
now he's a elder in training here. He's part of
Okay.
our elder. He's been an elder at Redwood before, and then he spent I think 20 years at Grove Camp.
Well, the
Being
reason I'm asking is I
oh sorry,
didn't know any know all their names. I caught some enthusiasm from you guys, and it seemed like things are going well. You guys seem like you're excited and you got a vision. And I was gonna say, well, as we wrap up, why don't you give us like a thing that you're really excited about for your church family right now? What do you guys got
yeah.
going on?
The biggest thing that we have going on is we're bringing on a guy for youth ministry and worship starting here at the end of the month. Really excited about that. Um, and so he's going to be putting a lot. He's only 22, and so giving him tons of opportunity he'll be preaching and doing all sorts of stuff. The
Mm.
leadership training stuff that we have going on. We're part of the same academy that Lighthouse Christian Church is starting, and so we're interning. I got a new guy coming in today to start interning, and or being part of our whatever you want to call it, intern or residency or whatever.
Mhm.
But just seeing a lot of growth here, having good baptism numbers this year, that's always positive. Like
Yeah.
Mm.
we're about to have 15 so
Hey,
far.
great,
Wow.
man.
I,
That's
I just
awesome.
I just had a baptism. I baptized 7 people at the river
Baptized 7 people before breakfast.
Yeah, it's like it's just, I mean, it's cool. Like, it's cool to be a part of a church that, I mean, Eric, Redwood had a legacy.
Yeah.
It was probably the largest of our Christian churches in Southern Oregon for the
Long time.
longest time.
Yeah.
And to see a church that, honestly, I mean, I didn't realize I was coming to a turnaround church until Bob conveniently hid that from me before I came. He's like, "Oh, by the way, it's a turnaround church, man." I'm like, "Yeah, I'm getting that now." So,
Yeah.
and seeing the church starting to turn and actually remember who it is and be excited about what we're doing. Again, our VBS and everything that we're doing is just community involvement and all that kind of stuff. It's been really awesome.
Well, good for you, man. It's
There's
great
not one thing I can say.
it's great to hear that, and it's great to see you happy. I've caught the enthusiasm off you, and I saw you here in Oregon this last few months, and I appreciate your time today. As you talked about turnaround church and stuff, what's that? Someone once said, our God can turn crucifixions into resurrections, and so not only do we want to be part of planting brand new churches, we also want to keep the ones we've got going.
Right.
I said this to someone the other day, as someone that's trying to get new churches started, it's hard. And, we want to keep doing that, but man, let's not lose ones we've got along the way. Because they've already done the work of getting a group of people and getting a facility, and they've got resources and legacy and history and all these, man, let's not lose that, and so the 2 extensions, of the OCF, shout out to Bob and those guys, and other organizations, even like ours, we do want to plant churches, but man, if we can help keep other ones from shutting, we need to do that. So good on you, man, for going and chancing that and getting that going. I know you give all the credit to the Lord, but great having you on. We're going to wrap up today. So for everybody who's been listening, thanks for listening. Be sure to check out our sponsors at 9centprinting.com. If you like what we're doing, please like or subscribe wherever you watch or listen. And if you're interested in Small Town Network, you can find us online at smalltownnetwork.com. You've been listening to the Small Town Pastor Podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by 9centprinting.com. With over 100 5-star reviews, 9centprinting.com is ready to meet all your printing needs. Are you a church plant or a small church with no copy machine? No problem. 9 Cent Printing has you covered. If you need bulletins, flyers, books, cards, offering envelopes, posters, they do it all. I know the Christian owners of this business personally, and I'm not just a fan, I'm also a customer. Fast, nationwide shipping, affordable, professional, wow printing at wow prices. Check them out at 9centprinting.com.